You don't remember the exact moment it started. Maybe it was a night like any other, a quiet dinner alone, your phone screen lighting up but never with the name you hoped to see. Or maybe it was when you sat in a crowded room and still felt like a ghost, surrounded by voices, laughter, life, yet none of it seemed to reach you. You've laughed at your own jokes, celebrated your own wins, comforted yourself after every breakdown. You've learned how to carry your own weight because you had to, but slowly, without meaning to, you started building walls instead of bridges. You started mistaking independence for isolation. You started telling yourself, I'm fine on my own, while quietly wondering why no one ever stays. And that's where it begins. Not with the world rejecting you, but with you slowly convincing yourself that connection is a risk not worth taking. You think you're protecting yourself from pain, but what you're really doing is ensuring you stay alone. This video isn't here to blame you. It's here to show you what no one else will, because loneliness doesn't always come from being unlovable. Sometimes it comes from the subtle ways you keep love just out of reach, the way you hide your needs, the way you chase people who won't care while pushing away the ones who do, the way you think you have to earn love by pretending you don't need it. You're not broken, but something is missing. And until you see what it is, you'll keep searching, you'll keep hoping, you'll keep waiting for someone who never comes. Most people don't realize they're doing it. They're not rude. They're not mean. They're not telling others to leave, but they are making it easy for them not to stay. It starts small. You deflect compliments. You joke about your flaws so no one else gets to point them out first. You answer, I'm fine, before anyone finishes asking how you really are. You convince yourself that silence is strength, that needing people is weakness, that being vulnerable makes you a burden. But the truth is simpler and much sadder. You've been alone so long you've forgotten how to let someone in. You think you're being polite, modest, low maintenance. But to others it reads like distance, like disinterest, like emotional absence. And no one wants to fight to connect with someone who hides behind a smile that says, I'm okay, when everything else in their eyes says, please stay. People are intuitive. They feel when they're being held at arm's length, when they're invited into your life only halfway, when your walls are higher than your welcome. And the irony? Most of those walls were built for protection, but now they've become your prison. You ghost people before they ghost you. You leave messages on read because you don't know how to express excitement without sounding desperate. You pretend to be busy when you're not, just to seem more valuable. All of it, a defense mechanism. But here's the truth. Being guarded doesn't make people respect you. It makes them feel unwanted. The habits that kept you safe as a child, silence, withdrawal, emotional numbness, are the same ones that keep you single as an adult. Not because you're unworthy of love, but because you've made it impossible for love to find a way in. It's not that you're not attractive. It's not that you're not interesting. It's not that you're not lovable. It's that your energy whispers, I'm fine without you. And people listen, even the right ones, even the ones who could have stayed, because no one wants to feel like an intruder in someone else's solitude. If every time someone tries to get closer, you pull away, eventually they stop trying. Not because they don't care, but because it hurts to care when the door never opens. You may not say go away, but your habits do. You interrupt your own happiness before it can grow. You expect the worst, so you never trust the best. You shut down compliments, connection, even kindness, because on some level you believe you're safer without it. But you're not. You're just lonely in a more sophisticated way. And what's worse, you might be blaming everyone else. You might be telling yourself, people always leave, but the truth might be harder to accept. People never had a chance to stay. They never got close enough. Not because they didn't want to, but because you never let them. You might not say it out loud, but you expect things. You expect the person you're meant to be with to just know, to read between the lines of your silence, to sense your pain without you speaking it, to stay even when you give them nothing to hold on to. And this is where the tragedy begins. You're waiting for someone to love you in the exact way you've never been loved, to fix what others broke without ever asking for help. You crave connection, but only if it comes on your terms, without vulnerability, without risk, without effort. You want to be seen without ever having to show yourself. But love doesn't work like that. Love is messy, inconvenient, human. It's not a telepathic force that magically understands you. It's built through awkward conversations, emotional honesty, and moments when you say, I'm scared, I don't know how to do this, but I want to try. And yet, instead of saying any of that, you stay silent. You test people. You pull back to see if they chase. You withhold affection just to see if they'll notice. You pretend not to care, hoping that someone will dig deeper and prove that you matter. But here's the hard truth. No one can meet expectations you never voiced. No one can pass tests they didn't even know they were taking. You think you're being subtle, but to them it just feels cold, confusing, exhausting. They leave, and you tell yourself they weren't real. But the reality is, they never had a chance to be. You were too busy waiting for someone who would just get it to realize that people only get what you give them. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about confronting your illusions, that someone will fill the void without you having to open it first, that someone will love the version of you that you refuse to share. And that's why it hurts so much, because deep down, you're not just alone, you're misunderstood, not by others, but by yourself. You keep thinking, if they really cared, they'd try harder. But real connection isn't about effort alone. It's about direction. You're walking away and they're supposed to follow. You're closing up and they're supposed to keep knocking. You're hiding everything you are and expecting them to see through it all. It's not love you want. It's a miracle. And miracles don't happen in emotional dead zones. Sometimes the person you needed did show up, but your silence was too loud, your walls too high, your heart too wrapped in the idea that love must feel like fate, not work like truth. But fate doesn't fix your childhood wounds. It doesn't read your mind or carry your fears. It doesn't show up in perfect form and say, here I am, no effort required. You want someone to love you as you are, but you haven't even let them meet you. You've given them a version of you that's safe, polished, independent, and fine. But not you. Not the version that cries sometimes for no reason. Not the one that overthinks every text. Not the one that secretly wonders if they're lovable at all. There's a moment when you realize you're not just looking for love anymore. You're chasing it, grasping at it, obsessed with it. Not because it's beautiful, but because it feels like the only thing that could finally make you feel enough. And this is where the shift happens. Love stops being something you give. It becomes something you beg for. You overthink every message. You panic when they take too long to respond. You reread every word, analyze every emoji, and twist every silence into rejection. You try to be charming, agreeable, effortless, anything to be liked. But the more you chase, the faster it runs. Because people don't fall in love with desperation. They recoil from it. It's not your need that scares them. It's your emptiness. The way you look at them like they're the answer to everything you've never fixed in yourself. The way you smile just a little too wide when they pay attention. The way your entire day collapses when they don't. You think love is the solution. But in this state, love becomes the reward for abandoning yourself. You shape shift. You shrink. You adapt to what you think they want. And in doing so, you erase the very thing that could have made you lovable in the first place, your truth. You become who you think they'll like, not who you actually are. And maybe they fall for that version, but now you're trapped because you know they love the costume, not the person inside it. This is why chasing love repels it, because the chase itself is proof that you believe you're not enough as you are. It's the energy of lack, of fear, of conditional worth, and people feel it even if you never say a word. The truth is, you want someone to complete you, to prove that you matter, to fill the silence inside your chest. But love doesn't work like that. It's not a drug. It's not therapy. It's not the final piece of the puzzle. It's the bonus. But when you treat love like oxygen, like you'll suffocate without it, you don't attract connection. You create pressure, and no one thrives under pressure. You might think being available makes you lovable. That constantly reaching out, always saying yes, always showing up, earns you a place in someone's life. But sometimes the more you give, the more they pull away. Not because you're unworthy, but because they can sense what you're trying to get from them. Validation, approval, a sense of self. And no one wants to carry that weight, not forever. People aren't drawn to your need. They're drawn to your energy, your calm, your certainty, your wholeness. But how can they see those things when you've buried them beneath your fear of being alone? Here's the irony. The moment you stop needing love to fix you is the moment it actually finds you. When you can sit alone and not feel empty, when you can stop chasing and start choosing, when you can walk away from someone who doesn't see your worth without begging them to try again. That's when love starts appearing. Not as a rescue mission, but as recognition, because you finally stopped searching for someone to come and complete you and started becoming someone who doesn't need to be completed. That's when you attract someone who sees you clearly, because you're finally willing to be seen. And the truth is, that kind of love can't be chased. It can only be welcomed. You keep telling yourself you're ready. You want love. You crave it. You dream about it. You imagine the night spent holding someone close, the comfort, the understanding, the peace. But if love walked into your life tomorrow, real love, not fantasy, would you know how to let it stay? Not the kind of love that flatters your ego, not the type that chases you just enough to keep you interested, but the kind that sees you, holds you, challenges you, accepts you. Would you know how to be honest with it? How to be patient? How to listen? How to sit still with the terrifying possibility that this might be real and you might be enough? The truth is, most people aren't afraid of being unloved. They're afraid of what love will expose. Because love, real love, will show you everything you've buried. The parts of you that still feel unworthy, the fears you've dressed up as standards, the control you've disguised as self-respect. Love isn't just comfort, it's confrontation. It forces you to face the fact that you're not as healed as you thought, that you don't trust easily, not because others have failed you, but because you still don't trust yourself. You say you want connection, but deep down you fear it, because connection means being known, and being known means risking rejection. It's easier to be alone and blame the world than it is to admit that maybe you're the one who isn't ready. Not because you're flawed, but because you've mistaken self-protection for self-worth. You've confused being hard to get with being hard to know. You think your solitude makes you strong, when really it's made you a stranger to intimacy. Ask yourself, when was the last time you let someone see the version of you that isn't perfect? The one that overthinks, that doubts, that wants to be held without having to ask? If the answer is never, then maybe it's not love that's missing. Maybe it's the courage to be loved, because that takes more than desire. It takes maturity. It takes the strength to communicate without playing games, to give without keeping score, to receive without suspicion. It takes the willingness to be chosen and still choose yourself. And most importantly, it takes the humility to admit that no one will ever complete you, because that was never their job. That's yours. When you haven't done the inner work, love becomes a mirror you'll avoid. You'll sabotage it, doubt it, question it. You'll call it too much when it's consistent, too boring when it's peaceful, too good to be true when it's finally honest. Why? Because deep down, you believe love must feel like suffering, like proving your worth over and over, like chasing what runs, begging what leaves, and glorifying what breaks you. So when something healthy comes along, something steady, calm, kind, you'll reject it, not because it's wrong, but because you are not yet right with yourself. You are not yet ready to be loved in a way that doesn't hurt. And until that changes, until you stop confusing chaos with passion, silence with strength, and loneliness with self-respect, you'll keep pushing love away, even as you cry out for it. So the question isn't, why am I still alone? It's, what part of me is still afraid to be seen? Because love, real love, will find you. But first, you have to be someone who can stand still when it does. You're not alone because you're broken. You're not unloved because you're unworthy. You're alone because somewhere along the way, you started believing that love was dangerous, that needing someone meant weakness, that being seen meant being hurt. So you built walls. You chased the unavailable. You silenced your needs. And you convinced yourself that loneliness was better than disappointment. But now, you know. Now you can see the patterns, the quiet sabotage, the fear hiding behind your independence. And with that awareness comes a choice. Keep living the same story, safe, closed, numb, or risk being real. Risk speaking honestly. Risk showing your flaws. Risk letting someone in before they've proven they won't leave. Because love doesn't come to those who wait behind walls. It comes to those who dare to open the door. Start small. Reply to the message. Ask the question. Tell the truth. Be willing to be misunderstood, uncomfortable, imperfect. And more than anything, be willing to stay, not just when it's easy, but when it's terrifying. You don't need to chase love. You just need to stop running from it. And maybe, just maybe, that's when you'll stop being alone.